Hi viewers and welcome to the channel and welcome to a new course for beginners on FreeCAD. We're going to be constructing it around different types of workflows. So in one video we'll show you a part design workflow all the way up to export. In the next video we may show you a part design workflow all the way up to creating a technical drawing. It's the best way I can think of to explore these workbenches and understand how they fit together, as well as giving you a firm grounding in the fundamentals of FreeCAD to get you up and running. In this first video we're going to go through the basic setup of FreeCAD and how to set and use navigation in FreeCAD to get the best out of our experience. In part 2 we'll start to explore a workflow and model something from the ground up, guiding you through the process all the way. So when it comes to using FreeCAD, well, we first got to install it. So that's quite easily done. We go over to the freecadweb.org and we download the latest version of FreeCAD. Now at the top we can see the title is saying the current stable version is 0.19.3, and these are what these buttons are linked to. And we've got Windows, Mac and Linux there, so you just download it for your current OS. If you want a more recent build, we can come down to the development versions here and we can see we've got weekly builds button that you can click on, and this will open up the GitHub page. Normally for the page you have an announcement at the top, so you can see there's a code freeze at the moment because the upcoming version 0.20 is being released. And we can download those from here down to the assets, and we've got the app image for Linux, the DMG for Mac, and the 7-zip for Windows. And it's a case of basically downloading those and executing them. With the app image, because I'm running on Linux, this is the one I'll be downloading. We have to do some additional permission-based settings on there. So we right-click and set the permissions. And we're going to show you that in a moment once it's been downloaded. But with Windows, you'll be absolutely fine. We can just execute that. With Mac, there is again another additional step you have to take to set the permissions on there. And I have a video on my channel regarding that, and I'll put that in the show notes below. Once your executable or app image has been downloaded, in my case I'm on Linux, so I've got the app image, we'll see it in our downloads directory. Now for Linux, I'm going to have to right click and go to the properties and come over to the permissions, and this one here, allow executing file as a program. So we need to set that one to allow it to execute. And we've got a number of read-write accesses here. I'm going to go read-write for that one as well. And then we can close that. And just by double clicking on this, we may want to rename it as well. This should just run. And you can see FreeCAD has started to open and we're starting to load it. Once it has loaded, I'm going to go up to View and place it into full screen mode. So we have more real estate to work with. Now we'll have a look at FreeCAD to get an understanding of how it works. So we've installed FreeCAD and now we need to know how to use it. And if you've heard anything about FreeCAD, you've probably heard about workbenches. If we drop down this icon here, or this drop down, you can see a number of workbenches within here. These workbenches work together with other workbenches, and they can be mixed and matched as we go along. So if you're from a traditional CAD process, something like from AutoCAD or Fusion, you may find that this is a bit of a learning curve to get through. FreeCAD does it somewhat differently. For instance, we have the Sketcher workbench here. This allows us to do 2D sketches, which we extrude or pad into 3D form. To extrude and pad those into 3D form, we can use the part design, the part, the curves, or combination of part and curves, or even part design and part. Now before you go for running from the hills, once you get your head around what tools are in where and how they can be used, it's quite simple. The Sketcher and the part design are the easy path. So if you're coming from traditional CAD processes with traditional software, these are the best ones to use, these two here. If you're doing something with NURB surfaces, then you'll use something like the Curves workbench. Now you won't see that in your drop down because these are additional workbenches. This cursed workbench is an additional workbench that's been added. So as well as the array of workbenches that we have here, we can come over to the tools and go onto the add-on manager. So when you come into the add-on manager, you automatically get this welcome to add-on manager and saying that these are not official parts of FreeCAD. So these are what people have created and submitted to FreeCAD and are included in the add-ons. We hit OK. These are all the workbenches that we can install. So there's a vast array of different workbenches. Now, the thing is that we don't have to learn all of them. We may only use, say, 2 workbenches. But once we get more competent in CAD, we will utilize a number of the other workbenches in our workflow. So before we start with FreeCAD, we need to set some preferences. So we come up to Edit, Preferences. We can see we've got the Preferences window in front of us. Now in here we set our language. We're in the General tab, and we can see the general icon is selected. We set the language so we can change the language in here. Now if we come down to the bottom, we've got some visual preferences here as well. So we've got style sheets. At the moment I've got no style sheet, but we can change the general look. So if you like a dark style, we can go for Pro Dark, etc. We've got the size of the icons. You can see mine is set to large, and we can go extra large, etc. The reason why I've got mine set to large is because of demonstration purposes. It's easier to demonstrate with larger icons. Hit apply, that applies it to the background. You can see the icons have increased in size there, and I'm going to set mine back. But if you've got a larger monitor, we can increase the icon size, etc. Now we've got this startup. We can decide which module we want to start with, so what workbench we want to start in. I've just left mine at start. Let's come back up to the top and look for some other preferences. Now one of the ones that you need to set is over on the units. So we set the unit system here. Now I've got mine set to millimeters as standard, but we've got the US, inch, pounds, we've got imperial, etc. So we can set whatever we want in here. Now if you've used FreeCAD before, one of the annoying things is the error messages that appear. So when you go and do something, you'll either get a warning or error, and it will pop up in a report view, something called a report view, and it shrinks your screen down, and you'll see down the bottom a panel that is basically a text box showing the error message. You can turn these off from the Output Window tab, and you've got this Show Report View on Error. Uncheck that one. Show Report View, and show report view for normal. So everything here needs to be unchecked. That says show report view on error, warning, null message, log message, etc. Once that's done, we can come over to the display properties. And here we can set the camera type. So I've got mine set to orthographic rendering out the box. Comes out the box as this, so we can set it there. But we've got perspective rendering as well. We've also got colors, so if you're not happy with the gradient background that you'll see, then we can change those here. So for example, let's cancel out of here and create a new document. You'll see it's gradient background here. And at any time we can come into Edit Preferences and come over to the display and come down to colors, which is up here. And we've got simple color for the background color, and we can choose which color we want. So I'm going to go for, say, let's keep it as a white and apply that, and you can see that's applied there. And we can set that back just by setting this back to color gradient. If we get into a state that we've changed all the preferences and we want to go back to the beginning, then we've got this reset button down the left hand side. Just click that, and this will clear all the user settings. And if you hit yes, everything goes back to normal. So at the moment it's not, so let's just exit out and double click FreeCAD. So FreeCAD's open, and we'll hit new. and you can see that everything is back to normal. And if I go into edit preferences and come down to my styles, we had no style sheet on that. Size of toolbar icons, we had custom 30, before we had large 32. So you can see they've been all reset. I'm going to apply those and hit OK. One other thing that you want to change is the way the navigation is set. This is the way you'll navigate FreeCAD with your mouse or input device. So down in the bottom right hand corner here, you can see we've got this little icon here and it's set to CAD. If I click that, we'll see a number of different navigation options. So we've got CAD, we've got Blender, got Gesture, etc. I'm using a laptop, so I'm using touchpad. So I click on touchpad, you can see that's changed. And this also gives me the navigation shortcuts as well. So if I hover over the top of this, we can see that the touchpad navigation style is showing what buttons that you use for zoom, rotate, pan, etc. Now, touchpad is not just for laptops with a touchpad, it's also for a mouse as well. So if I hover over that, you can see we've got the select, the zoom, the rotate, and the shortcut keys that we use to actually control these. So if I zoomed, I can see I need to use shift and control, pushing back and forth on that mouse pad there. Now, when you're starting FreeCAD for the first time, it's best to have a play with these to get an idea of how it works. So I'm going to use this drop down to select a workbench. We're going to place basically a simple sketch in here. So click on the sketch. We see that we've got all these icons here. So I'm going to create a new sketch. Got this icon here to create a new sketch, or go up to sketch and create sketch. We're going to be asked for a plane. Now this is not to worry about for the time being. We're just going to get used to navigation. So select the XY plane for now. Hit OK. What you'll see is that these tools have all been activated. Now your screen may look different to mine because my icons are larger. If you do see differences in here, what you can do is drag and drop these toolbars. So you can see if I move over this divider here, these dots, I can drag and drop these to where I want. And some may be restricted down. So this one here, you can see we've got the two chevrons pointing to the right. That means we've got more options underneath. I just want to add a simple shape. So I'm going to find my circle up here and just click on it and just add the circle anywhere on screen. So I've dropped it in there. You can see we've what's known as auto constrained to this line here, with this here is a tangency constraint. We'll go into that later. We just need something on the screen to start with. I'm going to come over and hit close. Now you see we have the sketch on the left hand side and some geometry. So we're going to learn how to navigate with this geometry. First thing I want to show you is the navigation cube up the top right here. If you're coming from Blender, this is normally called a gizmo. It's basically the same kind of thing. It's a cube that we can select the different planes from, or the different viewpoints. Now this was placed along the XY plane, and that's looking down. So if we look at the navigation cube and also come down to the bottom, you'll see another item here which shows the axis. We can now learn how to navigate. So one way to navigate is to use the cube. So I can click, as you can see I'm rolling over the top where it says top here, and it's highlighting. If I click that, we come to the top view and we can use the left and the right arrows here. Now this is a slow way of navigating, but we can select those planes and get to where we want. Also we've got this rotate left and rotate right here. Now if we come down to our control method and hover over it, we can see we've got the navigation styles. So I'm looking at the rotates, so I can see I need to use Alt and move my mouse left or right. So let's give that a go. So I'm going to hold down Alt. It will be different depending on what navigation you've selected, and I'm going to move my mouse left and right, and you can see how that's rotating. Now it's wherever I've selected for this from, so I've gone over here and you can see I'm moving left and right, holding the Alt key down and moving across the mouse pad or moving the mouse. And if I come in here, you can see that it's navigating around, but it's moving in a way that is not centered upon anywhere. So I want to actually almost like rotate the viewpoint around this object. To do that, if I move my mouse over the top of it, you can see it has a rollover color. When that color changes, now I press Alt and move this around, you can see we've got more control. Rather than coming around here, roll over, there's more control there. And we can use basically any point along here to do that. Let's add something else to that sketch. So I'm going to come over to this tree view here, the combo view. And this is the sketch that we created. Let's double click it and come up to the circle. Click the circle. You can see how the mouse pointer has changed. It's got the circle there with crosshairs. That means that we're going to actually create a circle. And I'm going to place a circle down in the right hand side here. Click once and drag out and click again. So we've created that circle. Let's hit close. Now we've got two circles. So if I hover over this one, hold down Alt and move this, you can see how I'm moving around this circle. If I hover over this one, press Alt, you can see how I've kept that centered, that circle there centered. So we have control of how we want to rotate. So it's worth just playing with this to get an idea of how this works. The other one is zoom in and zoom out. So let's hover over my navigation controls, and for me I can see that my zoom is either a shift plus control back and forth or using the mouse wheel. So let's give that one a go. So I'm going to come back. I'm using the key and moving back and forth. So moving those back and forth. And you can see that my mouse pointer has changed. You can see I've got an up and down arrow. And you'll find that if you're using laptop, then you can use the two fingers to zoom as well, going back and forth. But I'm just going to try those. Whoops, I haven't done it there. So shift, control, and back and forth. And we'll try that back and forth like so. Using the mouse wheel, it will have a different effect. You can zoom in on parts like I'm doing here. See, my mouse is over here and my mouse is over here as well. So we've got different types of zooms as well. Or we can use the shift and control and go back and forth like so. Now the other thing that I've accidentally done there is actually move my viewpoint. So that one, if I hover over, we can see the move, holding down the shift and changing the position on screen with my mouse. So that's basic navigation there. With the cube as well, you can see as we move around the screen, the cube changes. So the cube reflects where we are in 3D space. You can click the points of this cube as well, and the sides, and this point here. We can go around them to place that into position. We can change what type of perspective we have there. Also, if you're, say this is off the screen here, how do we get it back? And this is important to learn as well. If you come up to the top left hand side here, you've got a fit all, and we've also got a fit selection. So if we click fit all, that fits the whole of that to the screen. So no matter where this is, this could be off somewhere miles away, and we just click fit all and it brings it back. So if you get lost and you don't know where your model or your sketch has gone, then just use this one here, the fit all. Fit selection is basically if we selected something in here and go fit selection, then that will actually fit that selection on screen. We've only got one selection at the moment, and this doesn't work with selecting individual edges here like these circles. If I create a new sketch in here, XY plane, and we'll create another circle, these aren't inside this sketch, so I'm just going to create another circle in here, place it in the middle like so, and hit close. Matter of fact, let's go back in, and I'm just going to delete that. So I'm using a box selection, so I'm clicking and dragging around this circle. I'm going to hit delete on the keyboard, and I'm just going to move this over this way some way, and I'm going to keep on going and just place a circle over here. So place a circle over here. So now what we've got, if I zoom out, we've got this circle over there. So if I'm zooming in, and if I hit fit all, we fit everything to the screen. Let's zoom in here, and this time let's select that new sketch we created and go fit selection, and that brings that sketch into the center of the screen. Click the other one, fit selection, and we've gone to the other side as well. So we've gone to the other sketch and pull that in. So I'm flicking back and forth between the sides, and that's important because you'll get yourself lost. Say if I really zoom out and I'm just adding some rotation, I don't know where everything is, so I want to go back to this sketch and go fit selection, and we're back in business. Now if we look down on the right hand side, we have an access controller down here, access handler. This tells us whereabouts we are in 3D space, and this reflects what's on our cube at the top. So we can come around, let's click on bottom, you can see we've got the axis sitting there, and we've got green, red and blue for the different axes, so the Y, X and Z axis. So at the moment the Z axis is running this way and the X axis is running down and the Y axis is running this way, and it's reflected over here as well. We can see that we've got the red, the blue and the green. And the other thing that I need to show you is the axis cross. So if I come up to view and toggle axis cross and zoom out, and let's fit to screen, you can see down here in the middle of our screen is the axis. So this is the axis cross, and this is basically the point of origin. So when we create something, it will be created around the point of origin. In part 2, we'll start to explore a workflow and model something from the ground up, guiding you through the process all the way. If you like what you've seen, please subscribe to the site. I also have a Ko-Fi or a coffee site that you can donate to if you so desire, and that's at ko-fi.com/MANG0. I also run a Patreon where you can subscribe and get extra content, and that's at www.patreon.com/MangoJellySolutions. Any money that's kindly donated will be used to expand the channel. Thanks a lot for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you again soon.